Hello everyone, my name is Marins Daniel C. Alonzo and I'm the leader of Group 3. So for now, I'm going to talk about the learning outcomes of this topic. The learner should expect to explain the theory of demographic transitions as it affects the global populations, analyze the political, economic, cultural, and social factors underlying global movements of people. Third, identify the attributes of a global city. And lastly, understand how cities serves as an engine of globalization.
Good morning everyone, I'm John Derek Salibot and today we are going to talk about global population. Global population. About 200,000 years ago, the human species first showed signs of intelligence. This has enabled the development of advanced tools, culture, and language. And over 10,000 years ago, there were 1 million people of the human species roaming the earth. And 200 years later, our population grew over 1 billion people. And in 1960, the world's population reached 3 billion and continued to grow until today. At present time, there are currently over 8 billion people living across the globe. According to UN, China and India are the most populous countries in the world with a population of 1.35 billion in India and 1.42 billion in China. According to world's population, the population is expected to increase by 2 billion persons in the next 30 years, from 7.7 billion to 9.7 billion in 2050 and could peak at nearly 11 billion by the end of the century. So the question is, how did we get where we are now? The primary cause of the population growth is the mortality rate. There's an imbalance between births and deaths. The infant mortality rate has decreased globally with 4.1 million infant deaths in 2017 compared to 8.8 million in 1990. At the same time, lifespans are increasing around the world because of advancement in medicine, technology, and general hygiene. So what are the effects of overpopulation? It is only logical that an increase in the world's population will cause additional strains on our resources. More people means an increased demand for food, water, housing, energy, healthcare, and transportation, and more. And all that consumption contributes to ecological degradation, increase in conflicts, and a higher risk of large-scale disasters like pandemics. So, how long our planet can sustain our growing population? The number of people Earth can support is not a fixed figure. The way humans produce and consume natural resources affects how our environment will be able to sustain future populations. When it comes to the human population, carrying capacity depends on both natural constraints and human choices. For instance, natural constraints include food scarcity, inhospitable environments, and disease. For human choices, it includes interaction between economics, culture, such as how we produce and consume goods, as well as birth rates, average lifespans, and migrations.
Hi, my name is Marche Embarras, and here's the continuation of what Mr. Salipots discussed. Our species have been witness to various stages of human civilization. Humans live a nomadic lifestyle before civilization, moving from place to place in quest of various food sources. This time, also called as Stone Age. Stone Age was the period of most important human discoveries like fire, tools, and language. The way of living was very different from what it is now. People used to live in small groups, hunting animals for meat and harvesting wild foods like vegetables and fruits. Instead of living in a house or cities and purchasing their food at a shop, since they were hunters and gatherers, we refer to them as such, which is simple to recall. Most hunter-gatherers lived so long ago that we have no written record or history of them.
The hunt is about to begin. Now hiking up seems like it's the opposite. They want to be to scare anything out of hiding. That's when the hunt begins, when something comes out of its hiding. Wow, you got it. So that's it's a gift for a poto. Did he just? Oh, well, that's for the bird. And we're off again. Hot pursuit. Let's go.
Cha-cha. Akan lebih cha-cha. Cha-cha.
I don't see it.
Nah, cha-cha.
So there's a little bush baby up in the tree right there. So they have it surrounded and they're basically sealing off all the escape points. Okay, here we go. Oh, this is great. There it is, there it is. What is it? That was hard to watch. That thing is so cute. Caught another one. Oh, poor thing.
Oh.
So why do they break the leg?
So when they had a bush baby, they have to break their legs because once break it, so it gets swell and they get enough meat from there.
And that's how they hold on to their cats. I felt really queasy by that one, but this is what we signed up for, to see a different way of living. And wow, there's no show here. This is just reality. At this point, I don't know who's still watching, but again, I just really hope that everyone's watching this with a very open mind. And while it may feel very rough, they have nothing but respect for the land and what it provides them, the creatures that give them their daily meal. So, has found a new arrow shaft right there. He's preparing it, because every now and then during the hunt, they go flying, never to be seen again.
This is
Can I kill a person?
Yeah, the poison from the plants, it's called desert rose. They can use for the big antelope.
Yeah.
And also for the bush pig.
Bush pigs.
Yeah, and also a wildebeest.
So the poison is called desert rose, and it's actually just from the local plants here. In 5 minutes, it will stop a giraffe's heart. It is that toxic. So you can only imagine how careful they have to be when they're playing around with these arrows. One little nick and that poison's working against you. Guys, this one here is a bit more blunt, as you can see, so it's meant for smaller animals. With the smaller animals, you don't want a very sharp object because it'll travel right through, destroy the meat. You actually want something more blunt to kind of stun them, knock them out of the tree, and that way the meat will stay more intact. This is the weapon of choice out here for long distance. The interesting is that in the tribe, your ranking has nothing to do with your age. In fact, they don't even know their age. This is Sokolo. He is the leader of the tribe, and it's purely based on his performance as a hunter. He's investigating it. It's like investigative work. They're like, we've been following these tracks now for 15-20 minutes. Whew, these guys are fast. Yeah, super fast. We've been in a very fast walk now for about an hour and a half. We've actually come up into the mountain.
This is a wild berry.
So if you're wondering why, this is just wow. That's all I can say. You can see just how hard these guys have to work to get their food.
I'm okay.
Thank you. This is our pigeon friend.
Yeah, sure. You can have it. I'll take it.
Bit chewy, bit gamey tasting. It's good. Very similar to chicken. So the bush babies are now being turned into today's little meal. Yusuf was just saying that if they catch a big animal like a buffalo, everything I've ever imagined would be unattainable and something I would never see. I am here in the moment seeing it firsthand, and it just feels insanely shocking, exciting, and I wouldn't trade this experience for anything.
Since they were lived before written history began, we call them prehistoric. Archaeologists said that at some point the hunter-gatherers learned to grow their own food and domesticated animals. This is called agriculture. Agriculture helped provide a steady source of food for people to eat. People were able to grow and store more food than they needed. Agriculture need to stay in order to farm. Pagdating sa agriculture, dito ay kailangan na nilang manatili sa iisang lugar upang mapalago at maalagaan ng mga tanim at hayop. And people started to build homes and village. Unlike hunter-gatherers had to move around to find animals and food at wala silang iisang lugar. So, dahil sa agriculture, more and more people living in cities and towns because there was so much food available to eat. So, some people began to do work that was not directly related to getting enough food to eat because marami na nga silang pagkain dahil sa pagtatanim at pag-aalaga nila ng hayop. Sila ay nakatuon na lang sa pagiging expert or building construction to help support themselves. As village grew, people started raiding with each other to get what they needed or what they want to eat. In other words, if one person could make really good pottery and another could weave better cloth or pananahi ng kahit anumang uri na isusuot, and they could trade those things with the people growing food for they produce na naayon din sa kanilang ginawa. In order to keep track of these trades in their increasingly complicated lives, people began to develop writing. Several different systems of writing began as something called pictograms, or pictures of things, and then gradually changed to represent ideas and then sounds. Through all of these changes, people developed societies known as civilizations. A civilization is a culture in the way of life that usually has a few specific characteristics. Number 1. Civilizations need to have agriculture and extra food available. They have large cities filled with lots of people. They have specialized labor and well-developed trade. In almost all cases, they have a written language. Civilization has a strong government. They have shared values in ancient times, usually a shared religion. The first known civilization developed over 7,000 years ago. Ito ay ang Mesopotamia. Since then, many different and fascinating civilizations began popping up all over the world. According to current thinking, there was no single cradle of civilization. Instead, there were several cradles of civilization which developed independently. But the Mesopotamia, ancient Egypt, ancient India, and ancient China are believed to be the earliest human civilization. Some important methods of writing were developed during Mesopotamia's civilization. Ang isa sa mga ito ay pictograms. Ito ay picture to show meaning. Ideograms. Ito ay signs to represent words, ideas. And last one, phonetics, signs to represent sound. Mesopotamia used number system or mathematical system on base 60. Older numbers were part or multiple of 60. Even today, some numbers still remain in base 16 like 360 degrees in a circle, 60 seconds in a minute, and 60 minutes in an hour. Some of the revolutionary innovation during this period includes laws, temple, irrigation, metalworking, advanced tools, trade, transportation, wheel, writing, mathematics, and farming. And the next civilization is Roman civilization. The Roman civilization developed written language, a system of government, advances in art and science, culture, and representative democracy. Romans built bridges, roads, aqueducts for water. They also created network of paved highways which joined empire together and empowered armies to move quickly. Ancient Romans changed our calendar to 365 days and named the months. They used Roman numerals, which are popular events today in clocks, watches, and books. And the next civilization, which is Harappan civilization. The Harappan civilization was situated between the Indus River and Ganga River. It is also known as Indus Valley Civilization, which developed around 3000 BCE. Mohenjo-daro was one of the largest settlements of the ancient Harappan civilization and one of the world's earliest major cities. Mohenjo-daro was believed to be a planned city with structures built like schools, temples, assembly halls, bath, two-floor homes, etc. At ang paggamit ng Sanskrit writing was discovered in Mohenjo-daro. Our species have been witness to various stages of human civilization, which significantly shaped the current state of our planet and had an impact on our way of life. Most particularly through events that sparked revolutions in agriculture, science, industry, and public health. So we know now the steps towards the revolutions of agriculture, scientific, industrial, and public health. From being hunter and food gatherers to revolution of agriculture where we highly organized ang paggawa ng pagkain and allowed our population to multiply in several folds. And technological and scientific innovations ushered the unstoppable wave of modernization across continents which caused to grow world's population exponentially. Unfortunately, the world has suffered greatly as a result of civilization that keep expanding and our obsession with striving for more. We develop an obsession with manipulating nature in order to satisfy our voracious appetite for a life that is influenced by material possessions. We began injecting a little dose of our greed into our environment, speeding up the devastation of the planet's ecosystem. The revolution that transformed our lives came a huge cost to our only home with no assurance of fixing the interrelated crisis in the upcoming years. The climate, which provides vital life support system, has been significantly damaged as a result of human activities, which is evident in the atmosphere, the air we breathe, hydrosphere, the water world, biosphere, the plants and animals, and the cryosphere, the ice sheets and glacier.
Hello SBIT3P, it's Gary Tadeo and I will explain to you the demographic transition. So what is demographic transition? It is a phenomenon which refers to high death rates and high birth rates to low birth rates and low death rates of different societies with different technology, education, and economical development. The populations improve living conditions and hygiene, as well as medical advancement that initially lower infant and child mortality are the main contributors to this decline. The population grows swiftly because birth rates initially stay high, and as a result, the population's age structure starts to change in a way that makes the younger births larger. But eventually, the birth rate starts to decline. This can be seen as an adaptation to the increased chances of survival for children, as well as to shifting beliefs about having a large family caused by the effect of societal modernization processes and shifting economic realities. Due to, among other things, the higher life expectancy during the demographic transition, population growth therefore slows and the population starts to age. The period of industrialization in many European nations saw the highest rate of population growth, which gradually decreased until the start of the second half of the 20th century. The majority of developing nations have already passed their peak in terms of population growth and are now in a phase where fertility rates are starting to decline. Now, I will pass you to the next person that will explain to you the second demographic transition.
Many various things will change throughout time, some of which may have a beneficial or negative impact on our daily lives, and one of those changes is our global population. Hello, my name is Mark Daniel Mikwa, and I'll be discussing about the second demographic transition. The second demographic transition occurs when the composition of the population shifts from having many young people to having many old people, and this is referred to as a population aging. The key element towards the second transition is having a low fertility rate. Population growth in the developed world is going gray, and families are having less babies, average of one per couple, which triggers selected Western governments to introduce incentives and subsidies those who wish to have more than two babies. So what are the various reasons that have contributed to global population's low fertility rate? The average lifespan of human beings significantly increased due to the scientific and technological advantages such as vaccination and immunization, and the dramatic improvement in the healthcare provision. People can expect to live up to 60 years old beyond. For example, Japan. Japan has the highest life expectancy in the world, where Japanese have average lifespan of 84 years old. One-third of Japanese citizens have already reached the age of 65 years old. And also early marriages. Early marriages loosen the temporal link between marriages and childbearing, as young married couples waited to have children until they were financially ready. Advancement of contraceptive technology, with the introduction of the pill and IUD further weakened the link between the two. Finally, women's societal position has improved. Previously, women faced harsh society and struggled in daily life due to unjust treatment in society. But now that women have access to higher education and greater career options, the number of children women desire to have has decreased. However, it is anticipated that the high fertility rate in economically underdeveloped cultures will increase as a result of women's low educational accomplishment and lack of access to contraception. The demographic transition has swept the world since the end of 19th century. The unprecedented increase in population growth during the post-Malthusian regime has been ultimately reversed, bringing about significant reductions in fertility rates and population growth in various regions of the world. More importantly, the demographic transition has enabled economies to convert a larger portion of the gains from factor accumulation and technological progress into growth of income per capita.
Hi, I'm Raymond. Let's talk about global migration. Let's go! Have you ever encountered this kind of scenario in your country? Can you last long in this kind of situation? So this was the dark sides of migration. However, we will focus on the contemporary world in which knowing migration is important nowadays. Hi guys, let us talk about global migration. Let us identify the reasons why people migrate. Then, what's the meaning of migration? And then, what's the disadvantage and advantages of migration? So let's talk about migration. When we say migration, it's specifically we're talking about human migration. It involves the movement of people with the intention of settling temporarily or permanently at any location. Migration is a key feature of our increasingly interconnected world. Global migration generates significant benefits for originating country and also those who take part of it. It became a flashpoint in debate in many countries, which underscores the concern of understanding the pattern of global migration and economic impact that is created when people move across the world borders. And also, global migration leads to greater trade in goods and services. Basta lagi natin tatandaan, ang paglipat sa iba't ibang bansa ay hindi masama. We are human being. Meron tayong kalayaan patungkol dito. So what is migration? Migration has its own two types. Number one is internal migration. Then number two is international migration. When we talk about internal migration, this refers to people moving on one area or another, but within one country only. So, it talks about yung paglipat ng isang tao sa isang lugar pero sa isang bansa lang. Then, ito namang international migration, moving on one area to another or people cross border of one country to another. So, ito naman yung taong paglipat sa ibang bansa or pa-cross border. When we talk about international migration, they have 5 types. Number 1, we have this immigrants. Number 2, temporary. Number 3, illegal migrants. Number 4, petition. And number 5 is the refugees. Number 1, we have these immigrants. Ito yung mga taong lumilipat permanently to the country. Ang tawag sa kanila ay mga immigrants. Then number 2, temporary, fixed period or contractual. For example, these are OFWs work abroad. Ito yung mga pumira pa sa kontrata na hanggang ganito or hanggang ganyan lang sila magtatagal sa isang country para magtrabaho. Then number 3, illegal migrants who have the violation law with that country. Kumbaga, illegally live in that country. Kumbaga, illegal yung paninira nila sa ganong or sa ganyang bansa. Number 4 is petition, whose family have petitioned them to move petition in that country. For example, if you want or if you like to be a citizen, you will file a petition for your family para maging citizen ka ng isang bansa na yun. For example, sa family mo, merong isang citizenship or citizen na sa bansa yun. So, kaya mong maging citizen sa isang bansa na yun with the help of your family. Then number 5 is refugees. They are also known as asylum seekers, unable or unwilling to return because of well-founded fear in account of race, religion, or by political opinion. And later on, we will talk about refugees and ano ba yung mga ginagawa nito sa isang bansa. Then let's move on to the report of the study on the number of the migrants across the world. So according to the report of IOM, United Nations Migration, the current global estimate that there were around 281 million migrants, that what we call international migrants of the world. So makita dito is meron tayong 281 million na migrants noong 2020 na naitala ng United Nations. Ganun karami yung mga migrants na umimpact noong 2020. Now let us take at the number of the international number of migrants which has increased in all regions. So makita nyo sa tally or sa graph is noong unang Europe and Asia hosted around 87 and 86 million international migrants and almost 61% of global migrants in stock. Then pangatlo is yung America with is 59 million and 21% nito ang global migrants in stock. And so on, the Africa, the Oceania, and so on. Currently, international travel restrictions were more likely than internal controls to have been enacted early in the pandemic. But there was a greater variety of control measures during the initial weeks, including screening early on, probably due to governments needing to assess the severity of the crisis during a period of extraordinary uncertainty. Moreover, measures such as total border closures enacted by most countries in the early weeks and months of the pandemic is over time, and by July 2021, most countries had dropped such controls. This pandemic had a very great impact in migration.
In addition to migration can be determined by two key factors. So what are those two key factors that we are going to talk about? The number one key factor is the push factor. When we say the word push, it is commonly viewed as negative. These are the type of situations that push people away or give them reasons why they should move out of their country. So let's go on to the second key factor, and that is the pull factor. when we say the word pull, these are the situations that attract new people to other places. It all relates to the economic, cultural, political, and environmental factors. So our first category of the pull factors is the economic factors. This is the most powerful at moving people. For here, people want to move in areas where there is opportunities, more economic opportunities. Areas with poor economic opportunities will more likely to push people out. Our next topic is political factor. The people wants to go in an area where it is politically stable, in which the government is at peace with people. Areas with poor political stability is another push factor. For an example, people are experiencing war. So our third topic is the cultural factors. Now for this topic, everyone has their own cultures and different views on life. To some, they want to move out to bigger cities to find diversity. In short, everyone has their own cultural things to get pulled in a certain area. Our last topic is environmental factors. People are attracted to environments that promotes not only a happy life, a successful economy, and a stable society, but that they are comfortable with. For an example, people want to move in areas that are cold and others prefer warmer areas. Now let's proceed to the next presenter.
This is a story of a man who lived in an airport for nearly 2 decades and just recently died in the very same airport. Mehran Karimi Nasen reportedly became a refugee after being expelled from his home country of Iran in the 1970s. He went to Europe, allegedly looking for his British mother, and ended up settling for a while in Belgium, where he received refugee credentials. However, his efforts to travel to other countries led to him being repeatedly expelled for not having the proper immigration papers. Then, in 1988, authorities stopped him at Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport for traveling without any identification documents, which he claimed had been stolen. Authorities reportedly released him after a few days, determining that they couldn't deport him anywhere due to his lack of documents. Charles de Gaulle Airport became his home. His story garnered so much attention that director Steven Spielberg came knocking. The 2004 film, The Terminal, was loosely based on Nasseri's experience. Nasseri was reportedly paid $275,000 for the rights of his life story. Though France granted Nasseri refugee status in 1999, allowing him to live in the country, he stayed in the airport until 2006, expressing fear about life outside. Nasseri then returned in mid-September after the stint in a nursing home, an airport spokesperson told CNN. Nasseri died on November 12 from heart attack at the airport. According to the Associated Press, police and a medical team treated him but could not save him, the airport spokesperson said. Nasseri's story is one over 100 million forcibly displaced people around the world, more than at any time in modern history. These are people who have fled extreme dangers, whether to escape relentless bombing, an invading army, gang violence, or other life-threatening circumstances. The United Nations Refugee Agency is responsible for ensuring that refugees have the right to seek asylum, to receive assistance, food, shelter, medical care, to protection from violence, and bringing about a lasting solution to their situation.
Can you believe it? What should take me 20 minutes took me nearly 2 hours. You should have seen the amount of traffic on that road. It's ridiculous. And to compound the problems, there's garbage lying on the side of the streets. I know the root cause of all this. It's rapid urbanization. What exactly urbanization is and how it begins? Is it all bad or it does have redeeming qualities? Hi, I'm James and I am going to discuss what urbanization is. But first, we need to understand what we mean when we say urban and rural areas.
Rural areas are places where the majority of the population is engaged in agricultural activities such as farming, cattle rearing, and so on. On the other hand, urban areas are places where the majority of the population is engaged in professions which are non-agricultural in nature. People involved in such professions includes doctor, engineer, lawyer, businessmen, factory workers, and so on.
The population of the world is growing. More and more people are choosing to live in cities over rural areas or suburbs. And that can be good. People in cities use less energy, and even less in higher density cities. They drive less often and over shorter distances when they do. And people in cities take up less space. But unchecked urban development can cause problems. Many diverse ecosystems, including whole forests and bodies of water, are compromised each year to make way for city growth. An estimated 139 amphibian species, 41 mammalian species, and 25 bird species will be encroached on or displaced by 2030. Pockets of heat called heat islands have already formed around many cities, which can cause extreme weather and changes in climate. Urbanization is not going away anytime soon.
Urbanization is an increase in the percentage of the number of people living in urban settlements.
We're in Beijing, China. I grew up in this city.
My name is Ma Jun, and I'm an environmentalist and a National Geographic explorer.
My life's mission is to try to make sure that this generation of Chinese can enjoy the basic healthy environmental standards and make sure that the generations to come can still have a healthy, sound environment and ecosystem. The generations to come will eventually enjoy blue sky and clear water.
Good morning everyone, I'm Jason Mark D. Valencia, and my topic is all about cities as engine of globalization. Cities are the engines of globalization. They are social magnets, growing faster and faster. In the current generation, urban life has become the dominant form of human life throughout the world. Urbanization is often linked with economics, increased job opportunities, a centralized market, better pay, and higher individual wealth have all drawn people into cities. These factors are what causes cities to grow. According to study, the three global cities which are considered as the engine of globalization are London, New York, and Tokyo. No doubt that cities are widely considered as engine of productive growth. They generate economies in huge scale, accounting for at least 1/3 or more of national GDP. So, what is GDP? Gross domestic product is a measure of the total value of goods and services within a country during a certain period. The characteristics of cities and their surrounding regions in turn help shape globalization. For example, by providing a suitable labor force, making available the required physical and technological infrastructure, creating a stable and accommodating regulatory environment, offering the bundle of necessary support services, contributing financial incentives, and possessing the institutional capacity without which globalization cannot occur. Thus, cities mediate the reciprocal relationships between economic globalization on the one hand and human development on the other.
Good day everyone, my name is Ron Vincent V. Lautrout and the topic will be discussed is all about mega cities. So, what is mega cities? They are the largest cities in the world, have several million people and an amazing cultural mixture within their broad levels of population. Governments and politics are incomparable with those of a small town somewhere in the Midway countryside. But duties and responsibilities are also immense. Infrastructure and environment are on top of the list of problems each megacity faces. The Asian continent is the obvious leader of our ranking of worldwide megacities. But Asia also provides the largest urban agglomeration worldwide, which consists of a bundle of politically separated cities such as Tokyo, Yokohama, New York, Manila, or Delhi. Tokyo, Japan is currently the largest megacity in the world with 37.4 million inhabitants. In 2100, it will be Lagos, Nigeria with 88 million. The number of these urban centers are astounding, and in a short period of time they will become a great challenge for humanity at a demographic, migratory, socio-economic, political, and environment level. And that's the end of our topic. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jeeper Dapon from Group 3 OBE presentation, and in this video I'm going to present the Smart City. Just how smart is your city? Chances are it's getting smarter by the year. Many governments around the globe are racing to infuse technology into just about every aspect of its city's operations. And I mean every part.
Including public transportation, IT connectivity, water and power supply, sanitation and solid waste management, efficient urban mobility, e-governance, and citizen participation.
And it does this using every buzzword imaginable, from big data to the Internet of Things.
So, how does a smart city work? Let's look at 3 examples. Here in Singapore, the city-state
might be the gold standard of the most extensive effort to collect data on daily living.
The government is now deploying systems that can tell when people are smoking in prohibited zones or littering from high-rise housing.
Singapore launched its own Smart Nation program in 2014 and will add more cameras like this, so the government can effectively monitor crowd density, cleanliness of public spaces, and even the exact movement of every locally registered vehicle.
Much of the data it's collecting will be fed into an online platform called Virtual Singapore that gives the government access to how the city is functioning in real time. It could help the government predict how crowds might react to an explosion in a shopping mall, or how infectious disease might spread. Over in Dubai, more than 50 smart services from 22 government entities have been rolled out as part of the government's Smart Dubai initiative. Using the government-provided app Dubai Now, you can do things like pay a speeding ticket, which likely captured you on a public camera and then emailed you the ticket directly. You can also use the same app to pay your electric bill, call a taxi, track a package you sent to your friend, find the nearest ATM, renew your vehicle registration, track the visa status of a relative, and report a violation to the Dubai police. Now head over to Barcelona, where one research firm estimates the city will save billions of dollars a year in energy costs just by installing smart systems like these. Number 1, smart streetlights. Public lighting that adapts and dims when there's no activity but brightens up when sensors detect motion. The second, parking sensors. Instead of driving in circles looking for a spot to park, drivers can get real-time information on an app which locates free parking spots. Sensors on the street curb use lighting and metal detectors to know if a parking spot or loading area is occupied. And finally, garbage sensors, which are actually compact drop-off containers which have a vacuum network through pipes which sucks up trash below ground. The automated waste collection not only lowers noise pollution from garbage trucks, but also lowers costs and keeps bad odor away. Juniper Research estimates that by 2021, cities will save nearly $19 billion by making their cities smart.
So that is the definition of what is smart city. So there are top 7 smart cities according to earth.org. And the number 1 is Singapore, followed by Helsinki. 3rd is Zurich. 4th is Oslo. 5 is Amsterdam. 6 New York. 7 is Seoul. So that 7 is smart cities, or the top 7 smart cities. And that's all. Thank you.